Welcome again to the Traveling in Ireland podcast. I'm back with another quick Q&A type episode, and today I'm talking about Ireland travel tips. Now, at some point during your vacation, you're probably going to hire a taxi, whether you need it to get around in Dublin, to go back to your accommodation from a pub, or even on a longer trip, possibly from an accommodation to the next accommodation, city to city. Somehow, sometime, you're probably going to need a taxi at least once during your trip. So I want to thank Joel R. for the comment that inspired this episode. He said, people often wonder if the taxi driver is taking the long route. All you have to do after you say your destination is ask for a printed receipt with mileage and amount. All taxis must provide this when requested, and this way you'll know exactly how many miles you drove, say, from the airport. And I think that's really a good tip, but I don't know if it's something that you need to necessarily worry about. And there's also another quicker little bit of a way to do it. While you're waiting for a taxi, it's super easy to just open your Maps app and put in your location and where you're going and get your estimated distance. And then you can check with the driver or follow it on your mapping app and just see how they go. Now, I will tell you that like recently I was in Dublin and there was loads and loads of construction. And my taxi driver actually said to me, he said, "We're taking back roads. I used to be a mail carrier. I know every inch of this city, and the way we're going may be a little further, but we're going to get there faster because of the delays around the city." I appreciated that. He got me where I was going in not very much time, and I didn't feel like the rate was too bad. So just another thing is to be aware that you don't know the city. You don't know what might be closed for construction. You don't know the fastest routes. You don't know if there's a toll on your route and if your driver is avoiding that because it's higher at some points during the day, which happens in the tunnel on the way into Dublin, or if he's taking that because the fare on it is low early in the morning and he's able to get you there faster even though it covers a little bit more distance. So just a few extra things to keep in mind when you are with a taxi driver. I've never had a bad taxi driver in Dublin who I felt like was taking me out of my way to someplace just for a higher fare. So just kind of leaving that with you, but I am going to give you a few more Ireland taxi tips to keep in your back pocket before you travel. Number one, there is no need to pre-book a taxi from airports or the train stations in larger cities or towns. These locations have constant traffic and taxis will queue for passengers, so all you have to do is follow the sign that says taxi and there will be one waiting. If you do need to call or book a taxi, my first choice in Ireland is the Free Now app. This is available for Apple and for Android, and it works just like Uber. You send out a request to nearby taxi drivers for them to accept or decline. Now, you want to be sure to set that up before you travel because unless you have a VPN on your phone, you won't be able to set it up when you are out of the country. You can also use the Uber app in Ireland. Now, Ireland doesn't use Uber the same way we use Uber in the States. You will not be getting a ride share. Insurance laws do not allow for people to give rides to strangers in their cars for additional money. But you will call a taxi, and the Uber app is gaining in availability. I saw quite a few vehicles in Dublin that were taxis that were marked with Uber. Outside of Dublin, you're still not going to find the high availability, although you will find some throughout the country. And then for longer trips, maybe you want to go point to point between towns or to and from a distant attraction. I recommend that you contact Robert McAuliffe at About Ireland Taxi Tours. Now, you can easily get to his website by using the URL irelandfamilyvacations.com/about-Ireland. The link is also in the show notes, so super easy for you to get. But Robert can help you arrange your ride months in advance if you want. It's not a do it on the day of thing. So if you want to have a driver set up, let's say you want to go from Dublin to Cork and visit some sites along the way, Robert is the guy to call, and he will set you up with that. Robert has terrific drivers. I have received rave reviews from people who have used his services based on my recommendations. And I can tell you that whether it's a short drive or a long drive, just setting it up with Robert in advance takes all the worry out of everything. And again, that is Robert McAuliffe at About Ireland Taxi Tours. And you can get to that website from irelandfamilyvacations.com/about-Ireland. So there you have it. Just some really easy to use tips for taxis when you are on vacation in Ireland. Like I said, you'll probably use a taxi at least once, even if it's just from the pub back to your accommodations or vice versa, because I need you to remember that Ireland has very, very strict drink driving laws. So if you do plan to go out to the pub for an evening, you want to make sure you are in walking distance or you use a taxi to get back because you don't want that ticket. I am really enjoying answering your Ireland travel questions or any other questions about Ireland. And if you want to send me one, I would love to have it. You can email your questions to Jody, Jody, at irelandfamilyvacations.com. Just write podcast question in the subject line and be sure to let me know how I can give you a shout out for sending it in. If you would rather not email and you are on either Instagram or Facebook, you'll find me at Ireland Family Vacations. Just shoot me a message there, and I'll be happy to answer your question here on the podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, slán go fóill.